Hi, Paul.
Micah, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for.
The big question today,
Okay.
will you be,
Will you be?
won't you be
Won't you be
my neighbor?
my neighbor? I like that.
Do you know what that's from?
I do know what that's from.
What's it from?
Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Isn't that
I
interesting?
grew up with that.
Did you?
I did.
Yeah.
It's kind of
You know
nostalgic.
Mr. Rogers, who he was, like what his other job was besides being a TV star?
I didn't know.
He's a pastor.
Ah, okay.
And so even like all of his things that he talks about there, I mean, they have some sort of like scriptural basis. And so it's interesting that the way that he started his shows like this, it's an invitation to become his neighbor.
Hmm.
And so he welcomes us into his home and invites us in to teach us uh, not only just his ways, but the ways of like truly loving one another.
Hmm. I like that. That's a good start right
Yeah.
there.
Is it?
I like that.
Okay, but we didn't break the ice. What's the ice break?
Well, okay. So if you were a dessert, what would you be
Key
and
lime
why?
pie,
Okay.
because it's good.
Okay, because it's
Yeah,
good.
it's good. And then
And you are very good.
yeah, and it's in it's in the Keys, right?
Okay.
So it's somewhere near a beach.
Okay.
So that's very the best place to enjoy it. A little tart sometimes, a little tangy, and but yet sweet. A nice graham cracker crust. A
Okay.
little crusty sometimes too.
You heard it here, folks. Paul has a graham cracker crust. The conversation that I wanted to have today was about, and you started it off really great, but about loving your neighbor and how to do that well, how to love others well with the love of Christ, show compassion, and how we do that practically. Because it's a concept that Jesus shares a lot about in Scripture, but that sometimes feels like, how do we do that with obviously we're super busy and super, consumed oftentimes with ourselves and our own lives. And Jesus calls us to live the interruptible life, right? To be willing to be interrupted and be willing to find those in our path. Maybe the first thing to hit on is those within our circles. Like, how have you learned in your life to love those around you, like your neighbors, those, directly in your circles?
Yeah, I think that's really difficult because you just want Jesus to come out and say, this is who you need to love and this is how you need to love them. But all throughout the Bible, the concept of loving your neighbor. So this is the first, the greatest commandment would be to love God with all of your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And then the second is like it, to love your neighbor as yourself. And if you look in the Old Testament, there are very specific rules, like even within the 10 Commandments of like, we're not going to steal from our neighbor and we're not going to covet our neighbor's wife. And so one way of loving our neighbor is to not sin against them. But the problem that we have is that we want to sin against everybody. And so it's impossible to love our neighbor. And so as much as I want to try to love and please my neighbor that's there, I will always do something to break that relationship. So I think like to back up, like to come to that realization first of like, I desire to love everybody, but I'm not able to love everybody. But only if like Christ's love enters into me first and my relationship with him is first beyond all things, then I'm truly able to love my neighbor. Because there are so many things that I can think, to do to love my neighbor, but I really only do things that I know and like how to love myself. So if we go back to our icebreaker question, if you don't edit it out, right? So I'm key lime pie and I'm like, oh, Micah would really love a key lime pie for his birthday, and I get it to you. And you're like, key lime pie. And you absolutely hate key lime pie. That's not very loving. I'm only giving to you what I think that you would love. So the first key to being able to love my neighbor is to love Christ and allow him to change my heart and my desires so that I'm more aware of my neighbors and can be led by the Spirit and being able to love them well. And so then once I do that, like how do I practically do that now? You know, being connected to the Spirit. The first thing that I think we need to do is to get to know our neighbors. And even the concept of knowing in the Bible, when it talks about like Adam knew Eve, it's like he knew her in a complete and total way because she was naked, he was naked, and they were intimate. But yet, that's not the complete way that we know our neighbors is through that tight intimacy. But there has to be some way of asking the right questions to get to know them.
Mm.
And so I find that in getting to know somebody, going along a pattern or a series of questions will then allow them to feel comfortable and then open up in ways that will allow me to know what is the way that I can truly love them.
And I think those two things that you mentioned have to be, married. Those things have to go together, walking by the Spirit and having your heart transformed, and then asking the right questions in order to break the ice with people, in order to gain trust with people, because we don't right out the gate, like you said, jump into that intimacy. We don't go deep right in the first, our first interactions with people. There has to be trust built there. It's really important.
And so then by getting to know somebody, it touches something deep inside that everybody longs to be known.
Mhm.
And not everybody longs to be popular. Not everybody longs to be in very large groups of people, but everybody wants to be known in that they want to be noticed and they want to feel like they're important. They want to feel like that they're loved. And so we are a part of that by demonstrating God's love, by getting to know them. But more importantly, we want them to feel known by us so that they can also learn that they're known and loved by God completely. And so, we all spend our lives hiding. So this is even a result of the first sin. So if we go back to Adam and Eve, when they ate of the fruit and they realized that they were naked, they became ashamed. And then they heard God walking in the garden, and then they went and they hid. Well, you can't really hide from God. I mean, where are you, Adam? Where are you? Like, I see you. I mean, it's like playing, with a 2-year-old that'll cover their face, and
Yeah.
like, where are they? God already knows, but people choose to hide because of the shame that they carry. And so, in asking the questions, we're also inviting them out of that shame to help them realize that, well, I love you and I love you with Christ's love. Well, Christ has a deeper love for you, that once you know that, then you'll realize that you are already known completely inside and out.
Yeah. And we have to love with the love of Christ, because, like, as you said too, going back to what you said at the beginning, that if we love within our own strength and within our own, means, if you will, then we'll fall short. Well, A, we'll fall short, and B, we'll only be loving them in a way that through a lens with which we view love. We have to allow the love of Christ, which is perfect love, right? We have to allow the love of Christ to love through us. But practically speaking, with questions that you have, like questions that we ask people in our lives in order to get to know them on a deeper level, what are some of those questions?
So if I don't know you, I'll just, especially, so like we're in a context, we live in Florida, and not a lot of people are from here. And so I'll say, where are you from, or where have you lived before? And so, Micah, where have you lived before coming here?
I was born and raised in Massachusetts, and I lived in Colorado for a year, and then I moved here just about 4 years ago.
That's cool. So this living in Florida is a whole lot different than living up north around Colorado. What do you miss about Colorado?
Mm, like that. Oh,
Yeah, go ahead and answer it. So you'll kind of see like how I go.
okay.
So what do you miss about Colorado?
I miss the mountains. I love being able to see the mountains, and I don't know. It makes me feel very refreshed and feel very alive being in the mountains.
It's crazy. Like you go and see mountains and you realize even how small you are or how big the world is. Because I remember like seeing Rocky Mountains for the first time, and like they feel so close, but yet like the closer you get to them, the farther away that they are. It's really interesting. So then what do you love about Florida?
I love the weather. I don't like the traffic, but I love the people that I've been able to get to know here, and the weather's really nice because I enjoy being outside and in nature, and Florida really allows me to do that all year round.
Yeah. So when I ask these questions, I'm just trying to get you Just comfortable and like talk about things that are not like deep. I'm not just trying to like pull everybody into a really deep conversation, but like sometimes it lends itself to. And so uh, these are things that you know and things that you love, and then that also like just allows me to know you because it's like people always ask the question, of like, oh, do you prefer the beach or do you prefer the mountains? And some people will say both, but that those things always say something about somebody with that.
Yeah.
And then another leading question would be like, okay, so what brought you to Florida? Why are you here? Do you see yourself being here for a long time? What's been difficult about your time here? And so, um, asking kind of in that line of questioning is just getting to know you, things that you enjoy, and then also maybe something that's a pain point in your life. And then I'll typically, if I find out that they work something or they do something, my two main questions are like, tell me something that you love about the job and tell me something that's a struggle.
Mm.
And so both of those questions they're not like, if you ask like a superlative, like what's the best thing about your job? They're like, oh, I don't know what the best thing is. And some people take that really seriously if like they really want to tell you what the top thing is. But if you say just something that you love, then they can just say anything.
Mm.
But also the struggle, again, it reveals just a point of pain and maybe something that's going on. And sometimes it's, people just enjoy, again, part of being known that when they share a struggle, it's like, oh, well, somebody sees me and like now somebody else understands
Mm.
a little bit of the pain that I walk through.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that'll typically be the extent of an initial conversation. But then drawing that to memory, next time I see them. And so like I find sometimes I'll ask people, they're like, oh, I'm from Pennsylvania. I'm like, oh, I'm from Pennsylvania. Wait, we talked about that before, didn't we? And they're like, yeah, we did. They're like, oh man. Um, but but remembering certain aspects of people, their name,
Mm-hmm.
their family, their joys or their struggles, can then lead into other deeper conversations that go from there.
Yeah. That's really good. And I think to recap that, they're not at the beginning, they're not deep questions, but they're personal questions. And the goal of those questions is to, like you said, get to know them. And the goal is to not necessarily talk about the weather, and be that cliche or that surface level, but it's personal questions that allow them to be known by you, in order to get to know them on a deeper level. Like you said, the things that they frustrate them, the things that they love, the things they don't like, that sort of thing. And
Yeah, and I mean, even when you say it that way, I don't ever want it to come off as like, it's a goal. Okay, I'm really trying to draw you out.
yeah,
I think for me, what makes these questions easy is I'm just genuinely curious
yeah,
about everybody.
mm,
And it just like, God made you in a specific way. And there's, something that's, deep inside of you that like is different than anybody else in this world.
mm,
And to be able to like discover that is fun for me of like, oh man, that's so cool. I didn't realize that you did that. Or I think for some people, it may be harder because they're not as genuinely curious about
yeah,
people as I am. And then that doesn't make it wrong that you're not genuinely curious. But I think that if God is moving on your heart to be able to love the people around you well, I think that we have to grow in being good seekers
yeah.
of people and just getting to know them, just for the joy of getting to know them.
Mm. And that comes back to kind of our main overarching point is allowing the love of God to love through you. And the love of God is deeply personal, and the love of God is pursuing and seeks out to save those which are lost. And so, yeah, I think that's an important key. And it's an important key, like you said, to just be genuine in it and not view people as projects and view people as, okay, like, I'm going to do this in order so that you'll love me back, right? Like that's also the love of God is selfless and is just loving and asking questions and getting to know on a level just in order to get to know and love them where they're at.
It's kind of hard because I think that as Christians, like we have a mandate, to
Yeah.
love one another, and then to seek and save those that are lost and connect them with the love of Christ. And so it's in some ways it's easy, to see people as projects in that way of like, okay, well, I'm going to get to know them so that like they're going to fall deeper in love with Christ. But I think that rather than seeing people as that project and trying to go down this list of like, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, then they're going to feel this and react to Christ in this way. I feel that as people become genuinely known by Him,
Mm.
and they feel more comfortable and they notice something different about us, which is the love of Christ, compelling us or changing us from the very beginning, that those questions will naturally come out then of like, okay, so why are you different? Why are you like this? And then when we hear about, who Christ, then they may have some sort of reaction based on their history from before. And then because we've invited them into being our neighbor and to being in a relationship together, then we can be on a journey with them as to what that looks like moving forward, to have your own, to see Christ for who He really is rather than for the way that you've experienced Him previously. I think for all of us, when we are faced with this task of getting to know our neighbor, it's scary in many ways. And it's scary because we're going to be invited into the messiness of somebody's life.
Mm.
And to be invited into the messiness of somebody's life means that there's going to be a mess on you.
Yeah.
So if you go back to, Jesus was asked the question, who was my neighbor? And then He tells the story of this man who was beaten and left for dead, and two guys passed him by, and then the third one picked him up. Well, that third person was put out. Like they had a place, they had some sort of journey that they were going on. They had to stop their journey. They had to deal with this man's wounds and, blood and vomit or whatever it is that this guy and dirt that this guy is covered with, and that he would physically pick him up and put him on his donkey and then carry him and then ensure that somebody else would take care of him as well. And so now the first messiness of the person that picked him up was given to another person, the innkeeper, who then had to deal with the messiness of that person's life as well. But the goal and the desire of entering into somebody's messiness there is the healing that is to come.
Yeah.
And so truly, like, Jesus is the one who entered into our life. And actually Eugene Peterson in the Message, for John 1:14, when the Word became flesh and lived among us, he translated as the Word pitched His tent and moved into the neighborhood.
Mm.
So Jesus became our neighbor, and all of the messiness of our lives became a part of His life. And then even that messiness carried over to the cross, where He took all of our punishment that was due to us and took it on Himself. And so all of the pain that we were to suffer for eternity was now put on Him. But He willingly took that so that we would become clean, or that we would be in deep relationship and healed with Him forever. And so we realize then that when we're led by the Spirit to people, that God has a plan and a purpose for that. And the more that we enjoy being with God and being with Him on His plan and His purpose, it brings that healing to come into the messy aspects of life. And then we just need to be careful about not trying to become the Savior and not trying to be the one to clean people up, but allowing Christ be the one to clean them up. And so again, like within that relationship, we have to be in touch with the Spirit to know the right things to say and the right things to do. And of course, we're imperfect, so we're going to do those things wrong. So we go and we ask for repentance and forgiveness, and then seek and learn from that situation for the next one that we come to.
And with that, we get to love other people. This is a privilege and this is a joy to be able to, as we allow the love of Christ to love through us, we get to demonstrate Christ and His compassion to a lost and hurting world. We get to share His love and His healing with other people. And so that's a really powerful and an amazing privilege that we get to carry into the world and into our circles and our neighborhoods. And so let it be so. Let it be that we love those around us well with the love of Christ. Well, thank you so much, Paul, for being here today and having this conversation.
Good to be here.
Yeah. Thanks so much for watching today, and we'll catch you next time.
We will catch you next time.